Well, Jim was a very intelligent, bright young man and behaved himself pretty well, really. And he liked to write and draw pictures.
He was an avid reader. He read everything, and then he also wrote. He would write he had a book, and this was in high school. He would learn a new word, and then he'd write a whole story around it. So his vocabulary was incredible.
He liked all the classics and read everything he could get his hands on. And he was always delighted to go to his grandmother's house because she had a library.
One time he just got up out of class and told his teacher he was going to have a brain tumor removed, and he just walked out of class to go read. When he graduated from high school, he asked my parents for the complete works of Nietzsche. Most kids want a car. I think my brothers and I were pretty close because we moved a lot. So whenever we moved, we were just the ones we knew.
The life that I lived as a naval officer required that you to have a period ashore and a period at sea, which meant that probably half the time I was gone. I tried to make him feel like he was the head of the household, and he tried to take care of his mother while I was gone. He went on all the ships that I served in. It was clear that while he had some admiration for the Navy and my fact that I was in it, but he didn't have any interest in it himself to be a sailor or to be an officer.
He was 3 years older, but 4 years in grades. So by the time I was in high school, he was in college.
I thought he would have success because he was smart and creative and could write well. We were delighted he went to college. He started it out in Florida. I wanted to get him to go to graduate school. We had read, of course, about the film school at UCLA, and I was looking forward to his graduating and going into Hollywood.
So I just thought he would be a beatnik and be poor all his life. I even spent one whole night crying about it, worrying that no one was going to ever realize his talent, because I knew he wouldn't compromise and become a plumber, or I knew he wasn't going to just do anything.
When he ended up in rock music, I was absolutely flabbergasted. Well, he called me on the phone, said he was going on the road with a rock band. And it took me a little bit to gathering what he was really saying, but then, sure enough, that's what it was. And I told him that's ridiculous, that you're not a singer, you can't sing. And I told him he was really, I said, you are on the wrong track here. Get yourself a job. That to me was not a job.
I don't know when I was aware that he was in a band. I think it all happened rather quickly. My mom sent me the first album with no note, just the album in a package. And when I opened it, I was just astounded that was my brother on the cover.
Okay, they got a little rock band there, and they're making some headway, that's fine. But when he turned up on the national TV, why, I was amazed. I didn't have any idea of the talent he had as an entertainer. I still feel that his talent was not vocal, as in the classic term, but that he was an entertainer.
He did say a couple times that he thought that the audience deserved a spectacle. They had paid all that money, and they came to such a huge arena by the time he was famous, that he needed to be a showman.
We never had an occasion to see them. They were never in the same area.
My dad never stopped to listen. They really never stopped to listen to the music. They more just read about it and heard about it. And they didn't really know very much about what he was actually doing.
I haven't even heard the lyrics. I've heard the titles like Light My Fire. That's about it. And what it goes on after that, I couldn't tell you. I'm afraid I'm a very poor interpreter of his talent.
My dad was in the Navy. He was still an admiral, and he had his own life. And I think Jim knew that this would be an issue with my parents. And I think he just separated himself completely.
Well, I didn't know Jim very well after he left home. We didn't see him much. So I didn't have a chance to really appraise his mental attitude in his last years.
He did tell me one time he didn't want to sing Light My Fire again. He didn't want to do what the audiences wanted to hear from him. And when he wanted to do his poetry, they didn't want to listen. So I don't know if he thought fame was getting him what he wanted. I think Jim went to Paris to escape what he had in the United States, to gain his own freedom, allowing him to do his own writing and experience something new. A friend called and said to my husband, it's on the radio that Ann's brother died. You better find out. And it was days later that we heard it. Jim was already buried when we heard it.
We were notified by the naval attaché at the embassy in Paris sent me a message and said that Jim had died of a heart attack in a Paris hospital.
It was, losing him was awful. It was just awful, and it took me a long, long time to get over it, and it was hard, partly because of all the speculation that maybe he wasn't dead. Deep in your heart, you thought, oh, well, he would have done something like that. It's possible. Maybe he did just want to get away and have a new life, and it'll turn up later. So even though I pretty much believed he was dead, it left a little opening.
I was impressed with the fact that here is my son being interred really quite honorably into the great cemetery in Paris, and made you realize how well known and how well liked he was.
My dad thought for a long time, he took it very seriously what he was going to put on the grave.
I went back to my Greek teacher and I said, what we're looking for is something for the gravestone which sums up his philosophy.
So he put in Greek, true to his own destiny, or true to his own spirit. And I thought that was just the perfect thing to put on his tombstone.
He went his own way, and he was true to his own ambition, to his own aspirations. And that was his goal in life, and he made it.
I would like him to be remembered for his poetry and his music and his living his life his way.
Well, basically, he was a good man. He's a good, solid citizen. He had moral and ethical standards that were very high, and I think he was just somebody you would like to know.